Welcome back to Level Up with Lori, where I talk a little bit about life, a little bit about business, and every single thing in between, where I share strategy and where I hope to shift your perspective and the way that you show up in the world. Because at the end of the day, what I really truly believe the world needs more of is the magic that every single one of us has inside of us. So sit back, relax, enjoy the episode, and I will see you on the other side. Hey, welcome back to Level Up with Lori, you guys. As always, I am so incredibly excited and blessed that you're here. So thrilled that you have carved out a little bit of time to listen to me rant at you. I have a good one for you today, and I think this is gonna hit home for a lot of people because it really does hit home for me. And this episode goes out to the perfectionists in the house, right? The women that are really hunting for perfection, are kind of stewing on those ideas, maybe even excited about those ideas, but are not taking action. And I see this all the time. I see this in the women that live up in their heads, that spiral out, that have such an acute fear of failure that they never really get out of the gates. And I think honestly, it's interesting because it's a really challenging one to call people out on, right? Because a lot of people don't see this in themselves. I think it's because we compare ourselves against other people, right? And we compare their middle or their end, not their end, but their progress. We compare that to our beginning, and we expect, we kind of tell ourselves that we can't do the thing until we're in a certain place. But what if you could never be in a certain place unless you do the thing, right? And what if everything that we do has fluidity in it, right? The ability to become better. And what if perfect wasn't the goal at all? What if just doing was the goal? What if putting it out there was the goal? And it's interesting because I would consider myself a perfectionist in a lot of ways, but I also think that I'm a little bit of a reformed perfectionist, in that I can call myself out on it and I can let it go a lot of the time. And I'm also someone that takes a lot of action. And I'm also someone that expects failure. And I don't mean total and utter failure, because I don't really believe in that either. I think that something good comes from every single thing that we do. But I also don't expect to be really, really good at something until I've done it a bunch of times. And even with the first course that I launched, right? I put it out into the world knowing that it wasn't perfect, but knowing that it was never going to be perfect unless I had women work their way through it, unless I got feedback on it, unless I just got my feet wet. And over the course of kind of my coaching career and even my network marketing career, all I'm really looking for is growth, right? All I'm really looking for is progress. I'm not hunting for perfection, because perfection really isn't even a thing. Perfection is in the eye of a beholder. Think about the way that we love our children. We don't love our children because they're perfect. Our children are far from perfect. We love them just because they are, right? And that same level of love and trust and adoration needs to go into ourselves and the work that we're doing and the impact that we desire to have. You don't get income from perfection, from putting together the most perfect post or putting together the most perfect program. You get income from making an impact. And you don't need perfection in order to make an impact. In fact, I think it's those of us that are willing to be messy along the way that make the most impact, because people cannot relate to perfection. So think about the most active posts that you've done in your VIP group. Oftentimes they're us sharing our messier sides of ourselves, right? Or think about the very first time that you did something new in your business, the online party, or even the in-person party, or the vendor event, or the very first recruiting conversation that you ever had. Was it perfect? No. Did you? Absolutely not. I can almost 100% guarantee that it wasn't, and stop expecting it to be. But did it get the job done, right? I think back, like, in so many areas, like, if I was to even just look at, like, the online parties that I used to do, I remember it was back when, online parties really weren't a thing, and I remember just thinking to myself, like, "Well, I wonder, like, I'm on Facebook all the time right now, and, like, I'm trying to sell. Like, I wonder if I could just put a bunch of people in a group and give the one person who invites all the people the hostess rewards if they shop." Like, voila, that's how I birthed online parties. And when I think back to the very first one, like, or the very first 10 or 20, like, oh my goodness, they were horrendous. But did they get the job done? Yeah, a lot of the times they did. And even if they didn't result in thousands of dollars of sales, they resulted in me meeting new women that I never would have met otherwise. They resulted in me gaining skills that I never would have gained if I didn't get in the game. You do not learn by thinking, you learn by doing. Right. And in order to actually like achieve anything, you have to be willing to fail. You have to get out of your head and get into action. Perfection is not the goal. Perfection isn't even a thing, right? Because even if you have something that somebody else considers to be perfect, I guarantee you don't consider it to be perfect, right? I bet you like you look at like let's say you were to look at let's say you wanted to build an online course and you were like, Lori, I love the way that you do online courses. And like in your head, you're like, it seems so perfect. And in my head, I'm over here being like, oh, I really need to update the workbooks in them. I don't love the branding on them. I'd love to add another module to it. Like perfection is in the progress, right? But in order to have progress, we actually have to take a step forward. In my business, like I don't move anywhere unless I just put something out there. And I understand that there's like all these layers of perfection, right? So, like, if we were just to look at like the way that I do online, I create online courses, there's like this way that they grow over time while always making an impact and making an income. So, the very first time I often create an online course, do I spend hours in the back end creating the trainings, creating the workbooks, and then showing up to sell them? No, I show up, I sell them as live workshops. I run the live workshops to the best of my ability, right? I bring everything inside of me and I actually feed off of the energy of the women on the inside of there as an aside. Um, I may or may not have workbooks the very first time around. It kind of depends on the course. I then pull the trainings, I upload them into a hub, and I create an online course. The next time I run it, maybe I now create a sales page along with that course because initially the first one only had a checkout page. Right? I didn't have the full capacity to have all of the bells and whistles, but I just wanted to get it out there. And then the next time I'm like, okay, this is where I rebranded and I do these brand new amazing workbooks. So you're looking at my step 4 and you're comparing it to where you are right now and telling yourself you need to have all those things before you can actually get it to the world, not realizing that I have spent the last 2 years perfecting this course and that it was actually making money before it was anywhere close to what you're seeing as the end result. Right? And you can see this inside of your network marketing businesses too. You can learn all you want. And trust me, I want to teach you, but I can't teach you if you're not actually out there trying the strategies, trying the business tactics, being consistent, growing your business, doing the things. I have talked to so many women who have been like, you know what, I'm just going to give myself 6 months to learn everything. And then I'm going to launch my business. You're not going to be that much further along that in that 6 months, even if you have spent 3 hours a day online learning, because there is no learning like the actions that you're actually taking and learning from those outcomes. So I want you to release the need for perfection. And I get it, right? We want our houses to be perfect. We want our kids to be dressed perfect. But you know what? Perfect is boring. Perfect is boring. I want us to live in the messy. I want us to enjoy the progress. I want us to like be in the journey. And in the journey means that you're getting your hands dirty, that you're like trying things out. You're figuring out what works for you and what doesn't work for you. And I want us to like look at like, what does failure actually mean? Because I'm going to argue that it means nothing. It means nothing like all around you. It should mean nothing to you. And it's really just a piece of the puzzle. And I don't think that I've ever experienced any success without disappointments and failure along the way. In fact, just go into every single scenario knowing you're going to be shit at it the first 7 times, and then you won't be disappointed, right? But you're never going to get where you desire to go if you are not willing to do it a little bit messy. If you aren't willing to like learn along the way, if you aren't willing to be imperfect in that learning. We learn by being imperfect. We learn by doing. We learn by taking action. I love how Brene Brown talks about being in the arena. You don't get to judge anyone unless you are also in that arena, right? Getting dirty, fighting the fight, doing the things. So honest to goodness, let's leave perfect behind us. All the people that like you're following and you're comparing yourself against, they're not perfect either. In fact, there's a whole lot of fucking messy inside of them too. And maybe we should all just show the messy a little bit more and make everybody a little bit more comfortable with it. But at the end of the day, I see more women fail before they've actually tried anything, right? Or I've seen more women stall their success because they're all up in their heads worrying about something that hasn't even happened yet, right? Playing all those worst case scenarios out. But when in all actuality, if you were to play out those scenarios, holy smokes, they're not that bad, right? I was having a conversation with a client this morning, and she was talking about, you know, her fear of failure. And I said, number one, like what you need to realize is failure is not an inevitability here, right? Like she wants to do something new, and she's telling herself it's not the right time, it's not the right platform, and like she needs to have XYZ in place before she does it. And I said, you know, you don't know that you're going to fail at this. You don't know that it's going to fail. And number two, what does it mean if it fails? Like, what does it even look like if it fails? What if every single thing that we do isn't a failure, but like a mini success along the way? Right? So let's say you have an online party and you only get one sale and you get one new person into your VIP group. You can either look at that as a failure because you had hoped for $1,000 in sales and 10 new people into your group, or you can celebrate what you did get out of it and look at that as a mini success along your journey. You are the only one, like you are in control of all of your thoughts, and your thoughts control your actions, and your actions control your life. So you ultimately are in the driver's seat of the way that you see absolutely everything, and the way that you feel everything, and the way that you experience everything. I can't change your mind on this, right? And if you decide to live in this place of like perfectionism is the ultimate goal, then I'm going to tell you that you're likely never going to reach it. And I can say that with almost certainty because I don't believe that it's actually out there to reach, right? Okay, you guys, I hope you loved this little ramble. As always, I will love you to the moon and back if you share this on the socials, if you share this with your teams and your business besties. I honestly have such a massive vision for this podcast, so much growth that I want to happen, so much serving that I want to do, so many messages and like stories that I want to tell. So your sharing, every single one of them goes such a far way. And I really, really appreciate it. And every review that you give on iTunes, like you have no idea the amount of impact that it has. So if this podcast like says anything to you, helps you with any truth moments, like has an impact on your life and on your business, head over and give it a review. I will love you forever. I hope you have an incredible week. I will see you next week inside the next episode, same bat time, same bat channel, or in a couple of minutes if you are binging your way through.